We're going to talk about tools and timeline tools using the same chunks of video that I already have. Let me go back to my source here. So this is my little source window. Yay. All right. And I'm working on this same clip this same thing that I had before, which was the fireworks project. And we're going to talk about some of these tools and some of these tools. We're not necessarily going to cover all of them because I don't have a context to necessarily show you what the tool does right now. But should we need it, we'll certainly cover that particular thing. Okay? All right. So, the playhead. This is the playhead. Yay. Moves back and forth. Spacebar starts it. Spacebar stops it. Play. Stop. Go frame by frame. Go to the end. Go to the other end. Pretty straightforward. All right. Now, one tool that you're going to need to master are the zoom sliders. These are the zoom sliders for when you need to move in close to see something, or you need to really move out because your movie is so darn big. Okay. And if you still want to see your audio track a little bit better while you're doing that, you can play with these zoom buttons. Okay, there's the video or the clip, and there's the audio. Okay, put them back in normal sequence there. Yeah, that's probably pretty good right there. All right, and now I'm going to zoom back out. Just kind of keeping those like right about there. So those are your zoom sliders. Okay, time codes. This is time codes. Okay, it is based on your timeline, of course, and it can be really, really important because some audio most audio has time code associated with it, and so it's how you can align audio, especially when dealing with a voiceover, or maybe the voice was recorded separately from the video, and so it was kind of lip synced, and now you need to get the correct audio on there, that kind of thing. Now, if you right click, it gives you an option, okay, where it can actually show you the number of frames, or it can show you the time code, okay, at 30 frames per second, which is what the current code happens to be. Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. This may vary depending upon what your clips are and whether they've been manually switched to all the same frame rate and all that other good stuff. Okay, toggling track output. Okay, it's visibility. Okay, that's what these little guys are, these little eyeballs. Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. Just understand that if an eyeball is shut off, that will not end up in the final edit when it goes to process it. So whatever you've shut off, it will not show up. Okay? Kind of like visibility in any other of the Adobe applications. If it's not visible, it won't print, or it won't end up in the final edit. Okay? Now, there's the toggle sync lock, but I think the easiest way for you to be able to function doing this is actually with this little guy right here, the linked selection button. Okay, the linked selection button allows you to move just an audio track or just a video track. Okay, you will notice that it gives you the difference in sequence. Okay, and when it's back on, they move together. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. You have the lock button. Now, you have to be careful with the lock button because it does allow you to move things out of sequence. Okay. So just be cognizant of that. Okay. It allowed me to go ahead and move the video tracks without moving the audio tracks. So, oops. So I'm going to do a couple Command Z's and get it back to where it was. Boop. There we go. Unlock that bad boy. Okay. So here we go. What's interesting is the audio track for this movie is only mono, and the audio track for this one happens to be stereo, which I find kind of interesting that it's happening that way, but that's okay. All right. So we understand track locking. Very, very straightforward. Okay. Now, if at any point you need to add a new track, okay, or you need to delete tracks, all you need to do is right-click in this track area and it will show you and allow you to add audio and video tracks. Okay, so that's if you need to add or delete a track. All right. Now, I'm going to move this back up here. This is a little bit tricky. Now, there is something called the source tracking, okay? And the source tracking allows you to replace something with something. So say I want to replace this track with this track. I can come over here and drop it right here, and it has eliminated the other track. Okay, it's gone. It went ahead and usurped it, and it is no longer there. Okay, I'm going to put it back on. There we go. So at any point, you can replace the audio by simply dragging it onto any of these, and it will go ahead and adjust the source. Okay, another handy little function, and it's this little voiceover button right here. Just understand that every time you do a voiceover, it's going to go ahead and add it over here to the source window. Okay. You also need to be sure that your microphone is properly set up when it happens, when it's all set up and ready to go. So it's actually recording even though I don't necessarily see that it's recording. And as soon as I hit the stop button, there it goes. It stopped. Okay. And you'll notice it created a new WAV file over here. Messing around with it tells me what the settings are and all sorts of good stuff like that. All right. If I right click, I can go to VoiceOver Records and go ahead and okay, I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. What's the source? What's the input? Pre-roll and post-roll. Pre-roll means how many seconds before it starts recording after you push record. Post-roll is how many seconds it's going to roll after you tell it to stop recording by clicking on the microphone again. Okay? And then you can, it can show you the... let's do that. Let's do that so you can see what that is. It's recording. And as soon as I hit the stop... Okay, now it is recording. And now I'm going to go ahead and stop it. Okay. There we go. Now I am going to go ahead and I'm going to delete that using my selection tool. This one I'm going to go ahead and move over here, which will line me up with the next thing that we happen to be doing. Okay, so I'm going to remind you, okay, right click to get your voiceover settings, all right, just so we don't mess that up. Okay, so you have a solo track. Now, if I had multiple audio tracks, like there's one, let's go ahead and add another one. Let's shrink this a little bit so I have room, so I can have 3 of them. Okay. So, as you will note, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And it's multiple voiceover tracks, okay? But like, okay, I want to hear just one segment. I just want to hear one audio track to avoid all the confusion. So I press that and I get this little yellow box, okay? And now we'll hit play again. And I'm only going to hear that audio track, okay? Now, so that automatically mutes all the other tracks. But if I want to mute specific tracks, then I can use the mute button. And now all I'm going to hear is the sound that's actually recorded here, which is some wind, okay? So you understand the difference. This mutes all of them except for the one you're on. This mutes that specific track. Okay? I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Okay? The wrench is for adjusting your timeline settings, what you want to see, what you don't want to see, what you kind of want to happen, all that kind of good stuff. So that's basically customizing your window. Another important tool that you have up here is a marker tool. Now, you'll see that it ends up giving this little green guy right here, okay? And so this is to help you like, okay, I don't want to stop what I'm doing, but I want to go ahead and mark that little section right there because maybe you want to figure out what that problem is, or can I cut the sound of the helicopter that's going overhead out, that kind of thing. Okay, and so once you've dropped the marker on there, all you need to do is double click on it. I'm going to call it what? And say, okay, what was that weird sound? And I would probably go ahead and color code these depending. And you do have chapter markers that can go in there that will actually be recorded and stuff like that as well. Okay, or you want to insert a web link or whatever. So I'm going to tell it okay. And so if at any point I can come up here and go, oh, that was that, what the heck was that? Okay, that was that weird sound, and I can come back to it at any time. I'm going to delete these. Okay. Let's get into some tools. Okay. At any point, if you hit the V, you get the normal selection tool. I know that's kind of unfortunate because we're used to, in other Adobe applications, being able to hold down the Command key and automatically get the selection tool. It doesn't work that way in Premiere. Okay, so the V gives you the selection tool. It's the standard tool that we use for doing stuff. Okay. The Track Select Forward tool. Okay, what this does is I can select everything going that direction and move it. Okay. Here, let me shrink this down so it makes a little bit more sense. Oops, wrong way. Okay, so what if I went ahead and added another version of this? There it is. Okay, so if I want to just move this one, okay, there we go. Okay, now the automatic key for that, or the quick key for that is A. Okay, so if I'm on that, I can go A, and it's going to give me that tool. Shift A gives me the opposite tool. Okay, so which is nested, just like every other tool. It's basically the same thing except everything to the left. Okay, so everything to the right or forward, or everything backward from this, and it helps you, lets you move all of it, so you don't have to shift click on a bunch of different things to make them move. You can just say, from this point I want everything to the left or right to move. The Ripple Edit tool. The Ripple Edit tool does some interesting things, okay? Now, of course, it's going to give you this because it has to do with where the seams are, okay? So, if I'm using the normal edit tool, which the selection tool becomes when it needs to, and I move things, that's what happens, okay? That's what happens, all right? It adjusts that particular clip. Now, if I switch it to the Ripple Edit tool, okay, that time it's not going to do anything because it actually, okay, I'll do it this way. I'm going to edit this direction. You silly thing. Oh, why are you going back to the selection tool? That was weird. Okay, I thought I had gone back to the proper Ripple tool. What the Ripple tool does is it does that edit, and then it moves everything as it needs to be moved to fill in that hole. That's what the Ripple tool is all about. Okay? The Rolling Edit tool. Quick key is the letter N. What it does is adjust the speed up or down in a clip. And that really means exactly that. So if I start playing with this thing and start making some major adjustments in this, okay, either way, what it's going to do is if I shrink the size of this clip, it's actually going to speed this clip up. So it's still got the same number of frames basically. It's just using less time to get from one to the other. So it's a little bit of a different tool. You're probably not going to need that for anything that we're going to do in this. Oh, no, that move to fill. Okay, that was the wrong tool. I meant the rate stretch tool. That's the one that actually does those rate adjustments. Okay. And so now this one would actually play really fast. See how fast it is now? So it's super fast. Okay, I'm going to do a Command Z and put it back. Okay, so I had the wrong tool. Okay, the Rolling Edit tool. Okay, that can be handy if, where are we? Trying to adjust that one a little bit. So adjusting some rate. That's actually adjusting the rate of and moving to fill. Okay, the rolling edit or adjust duration. Okay. Then we have the audio clip. The audio clip tool, which is a relatively new tool. I think it first appeared in the last version of Premiere. It's interesting. It's mainly for either like audio sound effects or a music track or something like that. And it edits that audio track using AI to make sure that it goes as long or as short as it needs to adjust to the actual video or clip itself or the sequence, however you have it set up. So it actually modifies the audio track, which is kind of nice when like I have a 2-minute song that I want to have over my clip or over my sequence, but my sequence ends up being 2.5 minutes or 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So how do I get it to fit right? Well, using that new audio tool, I can actually tell it to automatically add that 1/2 minute of audio of music in, and it will go ahead and modify it and change it however it needs to be changed. Kind of cool. Make some changes here. Oh, I put those back. Anyway, other handy tools. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. razor blade tool. If I need to cut the sequence apart, all I need to do is do that, V, and I've removed a portion of the sequence. Okay? And then I can grab this stuff and move it over, and I've gotten rid of that middle part. You don't necessarily see it up here because of the kind of the actual content that's there. Okay? Now, if you really want to cut everything, okay, everything on the timeline, you use the razor blade and hold the shift key down. Okay, so that's just going to cut the join sequences, but if you hold the shift key down, it's cut all of those now. Okay, so shift key to cut everything on the timeline, just the razor key or razor to do just one track. All right. The hand tool. Hand tool is the same tool we have in any other option. You know, if you don't want to use your zooming little sliders there, okay. We can zoom in. Option zooms out. Okay. And I can, there we go. Now I can see everything again. Okay. So hand and zoom tools are the same that we're used to seeing just about everywhere else. Now, the type tool. Okay. The type tool actually happens where you want it to happen. So what you need to do is get the playhead to where you want something to be. Like if we wanted to have the title show up right in here, okay, we click and drag and we insert the text and type it. Okay. Now, you're wondering, okay, well, how do I change the font and all that other stuff? Okay. Well, we need to go down to the Essentials Graphics. Essentials Graphics is where all the alignment tools are, where, so I want it center aligned, right aligned, justified. I want it to be in the middle. Okay, in the middle. There we go. Make sure that it's right smack dab in the center of that box. If I want to change my font to something else, okay, make sure you select it first. Okay. Now I've changed it to italic. Great. Do I want to change the color? Do I want to hit it with a stroke? Okay. Is it inside or outside? Blah, blah, blah. This is also the window you'll get when you actually use any of these shape tools. Okay. So like if I decided to put a rectangle in here, okay. So now I have a shape in that same sequence. Okay. Here it is. Oh, so I want to go ahead and change the color. Okay, that's great. Love it. I'm going to adjust the stacking order, so tracks in front. These are your layers right here, but all of this is in your Essentials Graphics. And then to go back to your normal source window, you can just click on your project. It's generally always sitting there, so you can go back to it at any point. Okay, so there's a bunch of the super handy tools that for doing the normal kind of editing stuff that you'll be wanting to do, especially for the current project. All right. So I would experiment with these tools. You don't necessarily need to use all of them now, but eventually you're going to have to use a bunch of these different tools. And we'll continue to expand on your knowledge of the tools as we go forward. Okay. Anyway, I hope all of that was helpful. Delete that. I will delete that marker later. Oh, I can move it on the timeline. I hadn't done that before. That's kind of cool. All right. So hope this was helpful. So this was tools and timeline tools.